archaeologist
with Stephen Blondo. Hi, I'm Stephen. I'm an archaeologist. Let's answer a question.
How do you know where to look for artifacts?
Great question. We've been doing archaeology in Minnesota for over 100 years. Every time we find something or don't find something, we record it on a map and in a report. Looking at where we have found things or not found things helps us understand more about where people lived. Some archaeologists have written articles about modeling where sites might exist. They base their guesses on distance to resources like water, food, or lithic material like quarries, and even important sacred sites. Understanding the geology and past environment of Minnesota helps us understand where people lived as well. Finding historic sites can be based on old plat maps or written records of where towns or settlers lived. As a general rule of thumb, people like to live near water on higher ground. This isn't always true, but it's a good rule of thumb. Archaeologists learn a lot as they look for sites. Sometimes we find artifacts and sometimes we don't. We try not to get frustrated when we don't find things and understand that learning where sites and artifacts aren't located is as important as where they are. Because we are looking for things that are buried in the ground, archaeological sites don't always look like what you would expect. Sometimes they're in grass-covered fields. Other times they're in urban areas or under parking lots. Sometimes they're even in cornfields. Over the years, I've seen a lot of artifacts and gotten pretty good at identifying what I find, but I still use a lot of resources to know exactly what things are or how old they are. Rarely do we find spear points or treasure, but that's okay. We're more interested in what ordinary people left behind and how they lived. There are a lot of books that tell us about artifacts and identify what they are. On historic sites, we might look at old catalogs or photographs to help us identify things. Usually, we look at describing what we find, what material it is made out of, is it decorated, what was it used for. This is the same with prehistoric sites. What type of chert or flint is the lithic tool made out of? Is the ceramic grit or shell tempered? By finding similar artifacts at different sites over time, we begin to see patterns. If a site has charcoal and we can get a carbon-14 date, we know how old things are. When we find similar artifacts, we assume they're the same age as the ones we have dates on. As soils develop, older artifacts find their way to lower levels than newer artifacts. So things we find near the surface are usually newer than things we find deeper. This relative dating method works as long as gophers haven't messed up the site by digging holes or plowing a farm field hasn't disturbed the site. How do old things end up deeper than new things? It has a lot to do with how dirt is formed. Old soils are the result of years of geological activity, rocks breaking down, for example. This subsoil is older than humans. Topsoils are formed by adding organic material. The organic material gives the dark black color you see. Organic material may include plants or trees or animals or even people living in an area and throwing their garbage out. The organic material composts into soil. Sometimes these organic A-soils become buried over time or by filling of an area. Archaeologists need to understand how soils form to know how deep to dig.